After graduating, I was assigned to work in YC district, a poor district in SL province. In YC, wild animals were often captured for meat, sold, or kept as pets. I have always loved animals, so I often bought unusual animals to raise. Previously, I lived with my family, so even if I wanted to keep animals, I could not. Besides, in SL town, where I had lived before, wild animals were uncommon, so to me every creature seemed fascinating. I often told my students that if they saw anyone selling unusual wild animals, they should let me know. I taught music, and there were very few music teachers. Usually, I would finish all my teaching hours early in the first semester, then travel to support other schools in the second semester. Because of that, many students from different schools became my eyes and ears in helping me find wild animals to buy. As a teacher, my salary was very small, yet I spent nearly all of it on buying animals. One time, some students told me that in ML there was a family raising a very interesting civet cat. They kept it like a dog in the house, letting it roam freely. Wherever the owner went, the civet followed. Normally, it rested inside a compartment of a cupboard. Hearing this excited me greatly, so I immediately went to ML to see it. When I arrived, it was exactly as described. The civet was extremely intelligent. Whenever the owner wanted to show it to guests, he only needed to call, and the civet would run out, roll around playfully, and gently bite visitors' hands in teasing. It was only playful biting, not real biting. Later, after I raised several civets myself and experienced their real bites, I finally understood the difference. The civet was beautiful and smart, and I became very fond of it. I decided I would buy some young civets to raise for fun. The owner said the civet behaved so well because they had raised it from a young age, so I began searching for baby civets. Some time later, I managed to buy 2 baby civets, and also one large civet as big as a large dog. Just imagining them roaming freely around my place thrilled me. After a few days of raising them, I got bitten several times until I bled. It hurt terribly, their teeth were as sharp as knives. Some of my students who came to visit also stuck their hands in to tease the civets and got bitten. After some time, when they no longer bit me, I started thinking about releasing them. I released the 2 smaller civets first. At first they lingered around the cage, so I ignored them, and then both disappeared completely. I placed bananas around the cage to lure them back, but they only returned to eat the bananas and then vanished again afterward. Many people suggested that I surround them with nets, catch them again, and cook them for food. But I had raised them only for companionship. If they were to be killed, I would rather release them completely. After a while, they did not even come back for the bananas anymore. I had no idea where they had gone. The landlord was very annoyed with me because he had wanted to put them in a cooking pot. One day, someone from CK came to my rented place and said they had just captured a monkey in the fields. Knowing I like buying animals, they wanted to sell it to me. I followed them to their house in CK to see it and discovered it was actually a large slow loris. This species looks somewhat similar to the smaller loris, but it is larger. The large species is listed in the Red Book, while the smaller one is not. I bought it. After raising it for some time, I noticed it constantly trying to pry open the cage to escape. Any tiny opening and it would immediately run off. It also became thinner and thinner, and I felt so sorry for it. I began thinking about releasing it. Before this, I often released birds too. At that time, I did not know it was called life release. I simply saw beautiful birds for sale and bought them. But after admiring them for a while, I would see them frantically fluttering in their cages whenever birds outside flew by singing, and I felt pity for them, so I let them go. I kept buying and releasing them, over and over. This time, as I planned to release the large loris, I hesitated because I was very attached to it. However, after thinking carefully, I decided not only to release the weak and thin loris, but to release all the animals I was keeping. I thought to myself, this loris is miserable and losing weight from sadness. The others may not be thin, but who knows whether they truly want to stay with me. So I released them all, including the huge civet. Wanting to teach my students something meaningful, on the day of the release I invited several students who often visited me to come along. We carried the animals to CK and released them deep inside the forest. Previously, there had been a time when the loris escaped from its cage. It moved incredibly fast, completely unlike the lazy, sluggish creature that hardly moved all day while confined. When it escaped, I struggled greatly to catch it again, and many people had to help surround it. But this time, when I truly set it free, I opened the sack and poured it out. Perhaps because it had not seen the forest for so long, or perhaps because it realized it was finally being released, it just sat there motionless instead of running away. It stared at the forest ahead, then turned and looked back at me as if it could not believe it. Afraid it might remain there lazily near the forest edge and get captured again, I lifted it onto a tree branch and shook the branch gently to urge it to leave. Yet it still did not go. Completely unlike before, when it would race away at the slightest chance. Instead, it turned fully around to look at me, and its eyes were filled with gratitude. Honestly, its eyes had always been large, but normally they showed nothing except sadness and lethargy. Yet at that moment, I saw genuine gratitude in its eyes. I have never seen any human being express gratitude so clearly through their eyes, not even in movies. I kept tapping the branch while it kept staring at me. Finally, after a while, it turned around and slowly climbed away. Even afterward, I could never forget those eyes. It was a gaze I would remember for the rest of my life. Later, I told many people about it, but no one believed me. They all said I was imagining things. Only the students who had gone with me admitted that the animal's expression had indeed seemed strange. On the way home, the students were much quieter and less noisy than before. Another strange thing happened shortly after I released the loris and the other animals. I was transferred from YC back to HN. Before that, my family had tried many times to get me transferred because they did not want me to remain forever in that remote area, yet none of the attempts succeeded. My older siblings had many connections and cared deeply for me, so they constantly tried to help with my transfer. Once, several sworn brothers of my older brother heard about my situation and confidently promised they could arrange the transfer for me. They were people of high social status and great credibility, people whose words usually carried weight. Yet by the end of that year, they still failed. Another time, while I was at school, my sister called me excitedly and said that the following year I would definitely be transferred. My sister was a wonderful person who loved her younger siblings deeply and was even more generous than many men. Since childhood, she had always worked hard and cared for us in every little way. She explained that she had helped transfer one of our relatives, someone with influence in the education sector, to HN. At that time, my sister herself worked in HN and also had many connections. In exchange, that person promised to arrange my transfer. Yet by the end of the year, although my sister had successfully helped the relative move to HN, that person still could not transfer me. Each time, the promises came from powerful and trustworthy people. Everything seemed absolutely certain, yet unexpected obstacles always arose. Those obstacles were real and easily verifiable, not excuses they made up. In the end, I still could not leave YC. And yet, as I said, shortly after releasing all those wild animals I had kept captive, I was finally transferred. The remarkable thing was that this time nobody promised to help me. It happened naturally. One day, my brother-in-law was casually playing games online when he suddenly remembered my situation. He browsed a job recruitment section on the internet and saw that a school was hiring teachers. He called me and suggested I give it a try. It was summer vacation then, so my sister and I went there. Unfortunately, the school had just finished recruiting a teacher, and we sadly returned home. But a few days later, someone unexpectedly called and invited me to come for a trial teaching session. As it turned out, although that school already had someone, the principal there was close friends with principals from other schools. After we left, without saying anything to us, she called and recommended me to the principal of the school where I currently work. That was why they contacted me for a trial lesson. On my first day there, they only talked with me and scheduled the actual trial for the next day. They asked me to teach a specific song to the students. The following day, I taught the song to the entire school gathered in the courtyard. As soon as I finished, they immediately decided to hire me. That was how I finally transferred out of YC. At the time, I simply thought I was lucky and never connected it to the loris. But later, after learning Buddhism and understanding the law of cause and effect, I reflected. Perhaps all those earlier failures happened because I was keeping so many animals trapped in cages. Those animals were confined within a narrow space, just as I myself was trapped in that isolated region. By imprisoning them, I created negative karma, and so I too remained trapped there, experiencing the corresponding result. No matter how influential or powerful the people who tried to help me were, I still could not leave. But when I freed all those animals, I created good karma, and I myself also received the good results of that karma.